The Persian and the Poet. The Persian and the Poet!
Upon approaching a dead person in a hospice, stop breathing. Share their breathlessness. Walk slowly. Move slowly. Anything at speed splinters and blurs. Watch the curtains. Listen for whispers. Be ready for miracles. If this is a true loved one, place a fresh bouquet of sobs and tears on their chest. If this is a distant relative or even a stranger, a single long-stemmed sigh will do. Perhaps imagine this person sitting at a kitchen table laughing. Surely this happened once, if not many, many times. Smile, but don't make jokes. Cry, but don't wail. Talk to their face as if their mind is still there. It might be. Talk to their body as if you hold their identity in your words. Maybe you do. But remember, whatever happens, it's probably okay. Because in this space, group hugs, weeping uncles, and mascara smears are all in the realm of normal. On this fence line between life and death, there's never a comfortable place to sit. Take a breath. Keep breathing. You share the air of their last breath.
نفس مکش. تو هم شریک آن واپسین دم باش. با آهستگی گام بردار و به کندی حرکت که در شتاب همه چیز متلاشی می شود. خیره به پرده های آویخته به گوش باش نجوایی را، معجزه‌ای، شاید بازگشتی باشد. اگر نازنینی نیست نزدیک، حق حق اشکهایت را چون خرمنی از گل بر سینه‌اش بیفشان. ورنه ساق گلی از بلند، آهی در داگین بس. تجسم کن او را که نشسته بود پای سفره و میخندید. اگر نگویم بارها که دست کم برای یک بار. بی‌مزاح تبسم کن و بدون شیون اشک بریز. با صورت بیجانش حرف بزن، گویی که هنوز جان دارد. کسی چه می‌داند؟ با پیکر سردش گفتگو کن، گویی که هنوز گرمای وجودش بر کلامت جاری است. کسی چه می‌داند؟ اما به یاد داشته باش هرچه شود در این حجم حزن‌آلود آغوش‌های دست جمعی خیشان و ریمل‌های ماسیده زنان، یحتمل ملالی نیست که همه چیز در گستره روزمرگی است. بر این حصار خط میان زندگی و مرگ هرگز مهنایی برای سکنا نیست. نفس تازه کن، نفس بکش. تو شریک آن واپسین دمی.
You share the air of their last breath. You share the air of their last breath. Oh, there. My two experiences of being with someone that's passed away, you'll feel so separated, but yet there was that sense of like I'm sharing the air, their last air. That it was that was a beautiful thing, you know, and it was actually nearly a tangible thing, you know. So.
Yeah, but I think it's so special. You could capture it and you can see it and you can feel it, because so many of us, we just see it, we just ignore it, and we don't even want to think about that. But it's beautiful. Why this poem is beautiful? Because it comes from a sensitive person, a person who can feel and who can understand and can touch things, not just like.
Okay, all right, I'll take that.
Good on you. Writing this poem about death, and when you seeing someone dying, it can be a cultural thing. And I was thinking, I think for me, as you know, after translating the few poems of you, at least like I think now I'm in maybe 10 or 12 poems. I think translating in one language to another, actually, when you do poem is really hard. Translating poem is really hard because each of poem formed in kind of it's so related to the language, and is so related to
literary tradition.
Yeah,
but even
literary
idiom.
tradition.
Do you know what I mean? But
yeah,
the
exactly.
idiom, the unique little sayings that everyone knows.
That's right, and it's all of those stuff. Actually, it's all. You have to be. It depends on like when you're living, and you know what I mean.
Well, actually, I know this week you started translating one of my other poems, but yet you came across one of these things of like that a cloud always has a silver lining, and that's sort of the poem is based around that concept, that in some ways cliche that every cloud has a silver lining, but yet because you don't have that in Farsi, it's really hard to create the poem.
That's right.
In some ways you have to totally recreate it, and it wasn't working. So it was so I think that's speaking to that. But I think with this poem, like obviously I think it hit you at a moment where you're feeling death, like when you're feeling the gravity of loss. And I think that poem maybe captures something, or maybe some of the reverence of life that I know that, well, you've talked to me about sometimes either with the West towards the Middle East or even within the Middle East, there's not a reverence to life. Would that be true?
That's right.
Yeah, and,
absolutely.
And
it makes me really upset. It makes me really sad because I don't know. It's just like, this is life and this is what's happening in the world. But, even this poem is so related for, the situation we are living in, Don't look at us. It's so many people, they lost their loved one during COVID. And, just put yourself in that situation, what's happening. I know we are in kind of freedom in Melbourne, in Australia. We are so lucky. We have they really take care of us. And but in so many countries, people dying every day, thousands of people dying every day. And
But I think even when I think about this, of course I wrote this poem from my experience. And so I've been at the death of two people. So the partners of two of my partners lost a parent when I was with them. So I've seen two people pass away, but yet they were, I mean, they're very difficult times, but also they were quite beautiful. Whereas I'm so aware that some people's death is not beautiful, you know, and there's not the reverence that, you know, I've been able to experience as well. So
absolutely.
And I did, like, writing this poem about such a sensitive moment, I really was like, you know, like nervous, like trying to write this poem. Like, I'm just like, can I even do this? What can I do? What can I say? But I just thought, well, I've got my experience. We all have different experiences, but, you know, I wanted to try and capture this moment, you know, and not everyone will relate to this sort of thing, but yet I hope it captures some universal truths or something.
I think you did. I was thinking when I was translating, because actually culturally when you it's the reaction in Middle East and in Western culture is different.
It's totally opposite.
Actually they are not slow, they are not calm down. This is just the beginning.
So that's what do you call that? Like, so like in the morning, like, you know, women will really mourn in a really over the top way. Is that true? Does that happen in Iranian culture?
Actually, I'm really hoping in new generation we don't do that. And I think like my generation is, you know, it depends where do you live in Iran, but it's something cultural, not just in Iran, in Middle East. So like you have to kill yourself and you have to scream and you have to just cry and you have to tell everybody how sad you are, which is actually mentally is really good for you because you express your feelings as nothing. And it's good, but it's not good for others. I remember when one of my grandmas passed away, it was like crazy, and that was really overwhelming because I'm like, I don't like it. It's so stressful. Let me to just like cry by myself. And another thing I realized that like crying is a part of like, you know, sometimes if you be like close, like family member of that person who passed away and don't cry or don't express your feeling and crying, it doesn't sound nice because they're saying, oh, maybe she's not actually sad or something like that. And so which is and they try actually, if even they don't want to cry, to you know,
really just socially to display.
I'm so sad, but it's such a I think I went to the funeral here in Australia once and I was so surprised. I'm like, what are you doing? A scream.
No, that's not our culture at all.
I know.
Like,
I love it. I really like it because I just want
if you're grieving, it's a personal,
you want to spend the time with that person, just you know, say goodbye and be quiet, people, and don't do anything. And it's just such a mess. I don't like it. I always used to hate it.
Really,
from the childhood because it was stressful and scary actually. So as a child,
it was really interesting hearing about your response to some of the big noisy Middle Eastern funerals. But I know that you went to an earthquake scene and you saw dead people there.
That was actually my first interaction, kind of.
Do you want to just talk briefly about what your experience was like, how you ended up there and what it was like being in this place where you were surrounded by death?
Yeah, sure. I can't remember exactly what year it was, but I think between 2003, 2005 or even before, I don't know. But what happened in one of the small towns, but ancient towns in Iran, an earthquake happened, and so I just finished uni, and I was like crazy with photography and documentary photography, and I said goodbye to my mom and dad and said I'm going to go for photography there. And they offered...
to take photos of the earthquake and people.
Exactly. And that was like maybe a day after earthquake. And that was so dangerous because it still was happening. But anyway, I don't go to the details. But, this experience is still really precious for me because, when I went there, the city was crazy, totally crazy. The first, like the bodies just everywhere, and the smell was crazy. And the first time I saw a dead body, and I'm like, should I have a look? And I'm like, okay, you're gonna take a photo anyway. And I went and I had a look at that face of women who was dead, and it's just, But for me, the most thing I learned from that experience was how, as a human being, we get used to it quickly.
Really?
I was there for like maybe 5 or 4 days, and maybe the second day, it became really normal for me. And I was sitting next to the people, they were like crying, dying, and I was eating food because I was hungry. And that's, we are just like, I get used to it. And I was thinking, no, I'm going to die if I see the body.
Really?
Yeah, it's just, that was really, really hard, but I'm really glad I had that experience.
So you were glad you went?
I'm so glad because I learned a lot.
Yeah, what was the big takeaway for you? Like, what did you learn from doing that?
The first thing, because the independency, and
as in just being independent woman, going and doing what you want.
Yeah, and that was such a really dangerous thing to do.
Wow,
so
right, okay.
that was crazy, and I'm so happy.
So you were
I did
independent
that.
but reckless.
Yeah, and without like my dad, like, I'm not going to talk to you anymore if you go, and I'm like, okay, see you later.
Oh wow!
And
so you were properly rebellious.
Yeah,
like,
I was crazy. I think I'm
because
crazy.
it was a dangerous thing to do, to go into
it was dangerous.
It was a disaster zone.
Yeah.
And it was a dangerous thing to do.
Yeah, in so many ways it was dangerous. You could easily like raped or something, even not just like
that's right.
It was dangerous. I was with friends anyway, but
wow.
Yeah, but a part of that, seeing this like naked this without anything, and
wow.
I remember when we back to Tehran, the capital city of Iran, and we were smoking in the we were smoking, and the guy came to us and like, you cannot smoke here. And after a few seconds, he looked at us and said, "Did you come from BAM?" And we said yes, and said, "Keep smoking."
Really?
It happened. Yeah, keep smoking. You're fine.
Wow. Gee. Wow. Well, thank you for sharing. But we've got one more poem to do tonight, and you'll have to tell me about this poet, because I don't know anything about this poet. Like, you just said, "Do you like this poem?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay." So tell me who this poet is.
This poet, his name is Nima Yushich. Nima Yushich is actually a father of contemporary poetry in Iran. So,
right, okay.
So we share about contemporary poets in Iran, and which is Forough, Sohrab, week before, and they all like, it's everything. The contemporary and modern poetry in Iran started from this guy, and which he was started, I think, like kind of 60 years ago, and yes.
But so when was he writing then? So was he writing in the 60s or 70s or 80s or something? When was he writing?
Oh, 60 years ago. When was
but is that when he was born, or when was he writing?
No, he was born there, and he started writing, I think, after like plus 20 years or something.
Okay, so we're talking pre-revolution.
Oh, it was definitely before revolution.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So pre-revolution.
Yes.
Okay. Well, cool. Well, should we do the poem? So you do the original Farsi, and then I'll do the translation.
That's right.
می تراود مهتاب می درخشد شبتاب نیست یک دم شکند خواب به چشم کس و لیک غم این خفته چند خواب در چشم ترم می شکند نگران با من استاد سحر صبح می خواهد از من که از مبارک دم او آورم این قوم به جان باخته را بلکه خبر در جگر خاری لیکن از ره این سفرم می شکند نازکارای تن ساق گلی که به جانش کشتم و به جان دادمش آب ای دریغا به برم می شکند. دست ها می سایم تا دری بگشایم، به عبث می پایم که به در کس آید. در و دیوار به هم ریختشان بر سرم می شکند. می تابد مهتاب، می درخشد شب تاب، مانده پایابل از راه دراز بر دم دهکده مردی تنها، کوله بارش بر دوش، دست او بر در، میگوید با خود غم این خفته چند، خواب در چشم ترم میشکند.
The moon beams, the glowworm glows. Sleep is seldom ruined, but worry over this heedless lot ruins sleep in my tearful eyes. Dawn stands worried at my side. Morning urges me to announce its rival to the lot. Alas, a thorn inside stops me in my tracks. A delicate rose stem, which I planted with my hands and watered with my life. Its thorns break inside me. I fumble about to open a door, uselessly expecting someone to meet. A jumble of walls and doors crumbles over my head. The moon beams, the glowworm glows, blisters marking a distant road. Standing before the village, a single man, knapsack on his back, hand on the knocker, murmurs, worry over this lot ruins sleep in my tearful eyes. Really, I've only just read this, so I'm still just getting used to this poem. What I don't know, what makes this an Iranian poem? What maybe am I not seeing from my Western perspective?
I think actually for me is universal, this poem. It's not like so cultural, and that's actually I think this is a thing with what did you call it? Verse poetry, like we call it free verse,
blank verse
poetry. Because and this guy, when he started doing this, it was so ages ago. So, but basically in Farsi, we have with poems we have bait, which is like
stanza.
Stanza. Yeah.
Okay, so bait is a stanza.
Yeah, we call it bait. So, and in traditionally in Farsi poetry, in Persian poetry, that was so rhythmic, and the rhyme was really a big part.
I remember
of
with Khayyam and also Rumi, very rhymed. Like rhyme was just like and meter. Do you know what I mean by meter?
Yeah. And we have a different kind of the form of poems in Farsi, like Masnavi, Ghazal. Rubai, which is Khayyam, like writes heaps of Rubai, and but they all kind of they have rhymes. And what happened when Nima came, he messed up everything, and he actually started to express just himself, because he found out this is actually something not just from Iran. It's like when people moved from the classic poetry to the new poetry, they realized that this is the new way to expressing ourselves, and that's for Nima that wasn't enough. That rhyme wasn't enough to express himself. He need more lines. He need more space to expressing himself. And
the other big thing, like so in the Western tradition, they basically moved away from meter as a structure, and they sought more the innate musicality of language. So they found that the melody in every sentence, and were actually composing with the music of a sentence, rather than using, in some ways, the strict rhythm
that's right.
of
Absolutely.
the more traditional poem.
Yeah, which is, I think, it's still like for, especially this small poem, I don't know, for those people, non-Farsi speakers, it's still like kind of, it still has got rhyme in it, in Farsi. When I was sharing, did you realize that it's kind of...
I can hear a little bit, I think, yes.
Yeah, okay. Because... he was like in the beginning of doing this. He was the only person who was doing this totally, so like still, messing up and everything. Yeah.
So in some ways, it's nearly like a what they might call a missing link. So it's the space between classic and then moving towards completely free verse. So there's still a little bit of rhyme, maybe a little bit of the traditional style.
Absolutely, yeah. And took him like 30, maybe 35, 38 years to just do it. And then he opened the road for other poets to come and express themselves.
So I know, you said that this is a universal poem, but what is this poem about for you?
The loneliness.
Yeah.
And the main thing is loneliness and looking for to go away from that loneliness, and which is a really universal thing. But actually, because he was from north of Iran, and he's actually because in north they speak same language, but they have accent, and so he has got a few poems in his accent which sometimes I cannot understand. I'm from Tehran. I cannot understand that.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I mean, sometimes he actually you can see in his poetry he just pointing the things maybe is really cultural and from north, and cannot understand. And,
interesting.
Yeah, and it. But in this poem, why I'm saying this one is universal, because he doesn't have any.
It's not what we would call like regional or provincial.
Exactly, that's right. I was looking for a word. Yeah.
So, and also, I mean, I notice here, I mean, it's called Moonlight, and of course, moonbeams is a feature thing. So it seems as though, like, the moon is such a classic emblem of beauty in poetry, or is it even in the language of Farsi? Like, what does the moon mean to the Persian people?
Moon, actually, it's interesting because moon in Iran, I mean for Farsis, for us is a symbol of beauty. And before I go through this,
because I think I remember you telling me that there's phrases about comparing someone to the moon, so it's like nearly like the emblem of beauty.
Yeah, moon is always a symbol of beauty. When we're gonna say, "Oh, this person is beautiful," we say, she's like a moon. You know?
Really? That's the phrase.
Yeah, she's like a moon because the moon is so beautiful, and the way he's playing with the symbols, and that's a new thing in the Farsi language, because that was before kind of metaphors, not symbolism, in the way he's using that.
Okay.
The metaphors was there absolutely, but the symbolism, I think, is something Nima kind of started to bring it in the Farsi language. And classic poetry, Iranian poetry, the base, the poems, the part of poems, they were short and they were exactly in the same order, kind of. But what he did, he just pushed the boundaries, and we can see the lengths of the sentences is longer, and because he found it, I'm gonna express myself. I don't care about I have to be like in the box and just follow this kind of a structure. I want to do what I want to express myself. And that's it. That's about Nima. But it's so interesting because he's a father of modern poetry, and he did the main job, open the road, and it's beautiful. And and Yush, which is his family name, is his last name is Yushich, which is from Yush. Yush is the name of this place. And his house basically now in Iran, back in Iran, is a kind of a museum people can go and see. And, they keep everything there. And
well, that's going to be happening to my house, of course. This little unit in Bayswater will become a shrine for all those poets. All these Iranians will be going, is this where they filmed The Persian and the Poet?
Simmons?
Yeah.
That was cute.
So we better finish up. Thank you to those people that have come in live. We super appreciate it. It's so nice to have that little live audience, and we've been pretty chatty here tonight. We'll be doing the next one in 2 weeks' time. And look, I wasn't recording at the start for the podcast, so we need to do another introduction. So can you fill me up with wine? And then you need to do another, like, welcome to the Persian the Poet, okay?
No worries.
But that will also be our farewell. So anyway.
So I'm going to do it, but this is the end.
This is the end.
Thank you so much for watching us and the people after this listening to us from our podcast. This is the Persian and the Poet. Salamati.
Salamati. Okay, well, have a good night, everyone, and thanks for popping in. So,
take care and have a great night. مرسی که اومدین. میبوسیمتون. شب خوبی داشته باشین. Good night. We love you.